All right, good morning, everyone. Call this meeting to order, the Polk County Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, October 17th. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up, do we have any comments for items not on this agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 10th?
So moved.
I'll second that. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, thank you very much for being here, Matthew. Why don't you come join us up here? This is Matthew Bettinson from the Bureau of Land Management.
Is this on? Do I need to push this button?
You're good.
Good to go?
Yeah.
All right.
You don't have to lean into it. It'll pick you up.
Okay. All right. We'll put
I'm supposed to ask you to state your name. I already
Absolutely.
did.
Yeah, sure. I go by Matt.
Okay.
Matt Bettinson, Bureau of Land Management, Mary's Peak Field Office Manager. Goal today, really just want to get introduced to the Polk County Commission. I'm newly installed with the Bureau. I've been in place since about April. Did a detail there starting about last October, but just want to reach out, update the commission on some of the projects that we have going on in your county, and then also see if you have questions for the Bureau of Land Management. You know, a little overview. I'm not sure if everyone has the perspective of the Bureau of Land Management. We're part of the Northwest Oregon District, where that district goes from about the top of the Cascades down to the coast, from top of Oregon down to about the Siuslaw River. We're broken into 5 field offices. We have Tillamook to the north here. Mary's Peak is part of your county. We have Cascades on the other side of the Willamette River, Upper Willamette field office below them, and then Siuslaw below Mary's Peak. Mary's Peak field office consists of Polk County, Lincoln County, Benton County, and a little bit of Lane County. We're really responsive to county government, local government. We have existing agreements and relationships. One of the relationships I want to highlight is just the coordination with law enforcement between the BOM law enforcement rangers and your sheriff's department. That's been super positive, and talk a little bit about that later. What else? So as part of the Mary's Peak field office, our office actually sits in the district office, which is in Salem. I have about 20 staff. 2 families live here in Dallas. I've got 2 more in Independence, a couple more folks scattered out in the county here. I'm actually in Corvallis in Benton County. Got about 118,000 acres of Bureau of Land Management land here in Polk County. A lot of it is really designated for timber production. I think you're probably aware of
Can I
that.
stop you right there
Yeah,
and
please.
help you with language? I'm sorry,
Okay,
but I've been an ONC officer for 13 years.
perfect.
These are ONC lands.
Yeah,
Please. Okay, so BLM is under contract or under law to manage those ONC lands under the 1937 ONC Act. So I want to make certain for the record that people understand that these lands that you're speaking of are actually ONC lands in Western Oregon.
many of them are ONC lands. There is some public.
We don't
land,
have range lands here.
Yeah. But there is some public land out there too. But yeah, primarily, especially in Polk County, much of the BLM lands are ONC lands. Absolutely, with timber production as a priority.
So it's a challenge that we have in the
Yeah.
ONC Association at presentations. We want to always help everybody make sure that they understand that these lands are supposed to be managed for sustained yield management under the ONC Act of 1937. So I just want to make certain we start off on the right foot.
No,
with regard to
absolutely.
what these
So
lands actually are.
let's dive into some of the timber sales that we have going on, some of the timber projects.
I don't mean to be chastising.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I'm doing it for clarification for the record.
So Mary's Peak field office and staff over the last 2 to 3 years been working primarily in the Cascades field office with the Beachy Creek fire and doing hazard salvage sales out in that area. we had 6 timber projects, and we're closing out 4 of those right now. And so we're moving back out of the Cascades and back into some of the green tree project areas in the Coast Range, where we're kind of more bread and butter. Currently in Polk County, we have 3 timber sales, head over heels, which is 138 acres, about 8 million board feet. Sold the spring of 2020. That's active. That's just to the southwest of Falls City. And then we also have the Mustang Ranch timber sale, which we just sold in December. It's a little over 11 million board feet. And they're in the process of doing road building out there right now. And then yesterday we announced the cluster timber sale auction, and that'll be coming up November 15th. And everyone is welcome to come to a timber sale auction with the BLM. If you haven't done that, be in the Salem office, 9 o'clock. You can come and see the bidders. But we'll have 3 auctions, one for Tillamook, one for Mary's Peak, and then a small kind of continuing on with that hazard tree, danger tree removal sale out of Cascades. But our cluster sale is a 7.2 million board feet. Announcement went out yesterday. Polk County, kind of west and north of Falls City. That's what we have timber sale wise in Polk County right now. Any other questions on timber or?
Yeah, and just for clarification, again, for the record, for anybody that's listening, those sales don't mean that there are dollars that come to Polk County government directly from those. Those dollars are invested into the pool that for county governments that are distributed amongst 18 counties on a distribution formula.
Right.
So, and I do know for the record that more of the sales are being offered in the Northwest region right now versus the South region. So that is a transition that's been happening. And again, so all of these acres, all these board feet that are being cut, there is a share of that that's being shared with all of those 18 counties.
Yeah, and whatever the auction comes out, it's an auction. We don't know the value. We have a BLM estimate of the timber. Sometimes that's the low bid, and sometimes they get bid up a little bit more. But whatever that revenue, a portion of that goes into that pool that you're talking about, and usually gets dispersed back to the counties through our SRS program and through the RAC, which our next RAC meeting, I believe, is December 4th and 5th. Any other timber questions? Okay. A big piece of also the work that's happening in Mary's Peak is riparian restoration, really connecting some of these needled streams for salmon, steelhead, trout that have been disconnected either through culverts that have are not connecting to kind of the main stems anymore, or also going back in and building some habitat through what we typically call large woody debris projects, where they'll take some, we have a riparian zones on our plan where we can cut those trees, but we can't really sell those trees. And so we'll take those trees and use them for riparian projects if there's a benefit to the riparian zone with cutting those trees. And so we'll put those back into some of these drainages, build fish habitat. The purpose is to the large woody debris will slow the water, drop the gravels, drop the sediment, help control some of the flooding, and also build that sandy gravel sediment that a lot of the fish need to spawn in, put their eggs in, and have the eggs persist there. So you get another season of fish and smolt that come out of that. So the cycle can continue. We've done some work up in South Fork Petey Creek. We working with Manulife and Lucky Mute Watershed Council, replaced the South Fork Petey Creek culvert. And worked with sustainable growth. And again, the Lucky Mute Watershed Council. Which one did we do there? In Lower Maxfield Creek. But mostly 2003, we did a project in the upper Rick Creek. Again, that's a large woody debris project, and that was partners with Polk Soil and Water Conservation District and Manulife. And if you look at that Polk Soil and Water Conservation District website, you'll see that there's a couple of BLM successful projects on there where we've been able to partner with the Conservation District on that. That's about all I have for repair and restoration. If there's any questions on that.
Can you talk about where that money comes from?
Yeah, we bring it from a couple of different places. Sometimes it is through the SRS and through the Resource Advisory Committee. Some of that funded through the timber sale auction funds, if you want to consider that pool of money. We also have some soft grant style money in the agency that we're able to compete for at either a state level or headquarters, kind of a national level for some of our restoration projects. Typically these projects, what we're looking to do is leverage funds between the partnerships, whether it's a watershed council, soil conservation district, maybe some private partners, and we'll try to bring some BLM funds and look to marry those up with other funds for, stretching that money a little further. So
Yeah,
So
I didn't hear you mention which title this is.
Title II.
Thank you.
Okay, so Title II funds, is that okay? Go ahead and lead me through any question.
I don't have the benefit of your notes, so. I'm
Okay, it's all good. Yeah. Obviously restoration wise, we also have a really active botany program, invasive weed program that goes along with a lot of the timber sale projects where we spray area roads before we do a lot of the haul routes. I have a couple locations where we're really trying to reintroduce some native plants, collect some seed pre timber harvest and put some of that native seed back down after the timber harvest to keep those same genetics in place. We don't have a specific requirement to do that, but it's something that, one of the things we're looking at right now is the Swiss needle cast, disease, which we do have in Polk County. And that is, seems to be from some of the older dug fir stock that got put in, the genetics from those trees that are now, 50, 60 years old, maybe 65 years old. Those genetics came from more of the non-coastal areas, and they're not that well adapted to some of the fog and moisture. And it seems to, that's part of one of our projects is to help kind of clear out areas where we have Swiss needle casts and replant those with genetics that are stronger. That's about it for riparian projects and restoration. Gooseneck was able to work with Commissioner Gordon. We did a fire closure, very big concern. We use ODF through a contract for most of our patrols. We have limited BLM assets in Salem. We have a couple of engines that kind of move between Springfield and in Salem. We have a lot of crew, we call it the militia, a lot of people in Mary's Peak and other field offices that are trained in firefighting, and they tend to be assigned to fires. But as far as direct fire crew, we have an overhead of about probably 6-8 people that are fuel specialists and one fire management officer assigned to BLM. And the way that we're set up is we work in coordination with the Forest Service and ODF here to address any kind of a fire situation. For Polk County BLM, we had very small, we had a 1/10 of an acre, a 10-acre fire that was out there in the Valdez main line. Happened early in the fire season and it burned about 1/10 of BLM. And that's all we had in Polk County for BLM fire this year. But was able to work with Commissioner Gordon and Nicole. Thank you for helping coordinate that, but just letting the county know about our Gooseneck fire order. We closed Gooseneck and the Gold Creek gates this year, starting in August, and let those expire at the end of September. We open the gates, last week of September when we had that good push of rain that came through. And then coordination with law enforcement, talked about this a little bit already. In discussion with our district law enforcement officer, Damian Hayes, super good coordination with the sheriff's department here and BLM with patrolling those roads out in the Gooseneck area primarily. We do have a small contract with Polk County to help pay for some officers overtime to help us with having some oversight in those locations. We know Gooseneck is a little bit of a trouble spot with trash and maybe some illegal shooting in that area. One of the things that would help with the law enforcement in Gooseneck is there's no Polk County ordinance right now that the sheriff's department can use to help enforce, let's say, no fireworks or any posted no shooting areas up there. And our law enforcement folks are interested in working with the sheriff's department here to try to achieve something that's been obtained in other counties like Lane, Marion, and Yamhill's working on it. That allows your deputies to cite for anything that is posted as an ordinance. We get a lot of fireworks in Gooseneck over the 4th of July when we'll say there's no fireworks and we'll post it, but that's not enforceable through the sheriff's department. And so things like that can be helpful and help us achieve common goals. The other agreements we have in place, community corrections program, the dump stoppers program, super beneficial. Again, Title II money sometimes flow into that. It's RS funds. Help keep public ONC public lands clean. They also help with some of the invasive weed treatments, and they'll go out and pull some of the noxious weeds. The other project that I'm not that familiar with, but I came up as one of the folks, one of my staff talked about the Black Rock County Road Agreement and the work that's being done to help get that paved. It helps us with some of the timber sales that we'll have hauling down Black Rock Road with our environmental analysis to say that we can have no effect if that area is paved. Polk County was successful in obtaining a flap agreement or flap grant through Pet Highways to help with that paving. BLM was able to put some kind of seed money in to help with that flap agreement. But other than that, we do have our resource advisory committee meeting that's still scheduled December 5th and 2nd to talk Title II funds. And that's all I have for update. And I just want to see if you have any questions for me and maybe projects we can work on that, we have a common goal up with.
Well, thanks, Matt. Any further questions? Well, I appreciate the update and coming to us to introduce yourself. And I do have one more item.
Okay, perfect.
If you don't, before you leave.
Yeah.
Obviously, Polk County is a big timber county, and that's a core industry here, and we appreciate BLM's partnership towards those ends. But I do want to discuss some of the recreation access to public lands, particularly Valley of the Giants. I hear from constituents all the time that they're concerned about access for hunting and fishing in those private lands, and thankfully, the ODFW Access and Habitat program allows for that. I get fairly positive reviews about that program. That's not specifically BLM, but that does provide access. That program is really the only legal means by which folks can reach Valley of the Giants, the outstanding natural area. And I think one of the most pristine areas in the region.
Right.
However, there's a safety concern I have. A lot of folks are trying to navigate there and getting lost consistently. I've talked to people who have attempted to get there 3-4 times and get there maybe on the 5th time. So I did work with our GPS person. We took a field trip out there and mapped out a route that seems to make the most sense. We weren't able to take the same route back.
Okay. Did you
it could be user error. There's no signage on the way back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm worried about, I think we need to enhance safe access there because people are going to attempt to get there anyway. And I know there's grants out there, the Rivers Trails and Conservation Assistance Program from the National Park Service, et cetera. But I think there's some shared interest in making sure people who trek there are getting there safely and getting back safely and not getting lost in areas where they shouldn't be. And to coordinate that with, harvest plans and road plans and reforestation plans, I think is in our interest. And I would love to talk to BLM more about those possibilities and of course, engage the private landowners as well. I think there's low hanging fruit to make it safe.
Yeah, correct. 100% agree with you. Valley of the Giants has tremendous attention. There's a lot, social media, YouTube videos out on Valley of the Giants. Old growth is certainly something that is kind of an emerging recreational destination for people. They really want to see more old growth. And Valley of the Giants certainly has that. If you haven't been out there, we should go out there as a group. And I'm with you 100% with let's coordinate. It's going to honestly rely largely on the private timber land road access that we don't have a public right of way to Valley of the Giants, which is kind of our pickle. And like you indicated, ODF&W has that recreational program from the hunting permits and things like that support.
There's an easement agreement between BLM and the private landowners for road, basic road.
For administrative.
For administrative.
Yeah, we don't have a public access. Right. And so there's opportunities there to talk about that and how we'd want to put a public access easement across some of those roads. And that's certainly doable. From the BLM side, we have something called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And that's the type of probably funding source that we'd want to look at for trying to get an easement across those private timber roads. But I think, let's put something on the calendar. Let's look to get something together with the private road owners. I think it's Manulife and Hancock. I'd have to look again. And make sure I can have our realty folks take a look at it. And, maybe we can get on the calendar and do a field trip out there and visit with them and let them know the situation. But yeah, it is a bunch of spaghetti road network out there. There is a way to get to it, kind of going over the top and dropping down, but it's that Valdez road that people really, the main line that people like to go because it's straighter but there's a lot of gates on there and there's BLM locks on them, but we don't have public access. We can only use our keys when they're closed. And then there's fire restrictions up there and those gates get closed during fire season as well. And we hear about it in our office. I hear about it. That and anytime gooseneck gets a closure on it, I hear, probably 3 calls a week on gooseneck too. People, the public light, there's the BLM land, multiple use. We certainly want to support their access and it's super important. But I think the first step would be let's get all the players together and go out there and actually assess the situation and see where maybe people's ownerships and see where people are at. Some of the private folks are at with supporting a project like that or not and what it might take.
I appreciate that. And I'd love for you and BLM to really be a leader in that conversation.
I'll start reaching out and maybe this spring we'll try to get something out there.
And of course, with any recreation, we have a lot of mutual concern about safety, fire safety, and bad actors, doing things out there that they shouldn't. So sure. I'm really interested in looking at our ordinances about what's enforceable. But anytime we expand our enforcement area or mission, it costs money.
Right.
It's personnel. So love to just have really open, transparent conversations about what the existing state of affairs is, what we can improve, and then anything else that pops up.
Yeah, gooseneck, very popular location. I've been out there a few times looking at it. The illegal shooting, just we're shooting off into unsafe areas and just it's something that's troubling to me. We're hoping to bring on what we would consider an outdoor recreation planner for Mary's Peak this spring, have that person in place. And that is one of the main thrusts for that position, is addressing shooting in general. It's not just here in Polk County. We've got a gravel pit up in Benton, Mary's Peak gravel pit. And people need a place to go target shoot.
Right.
I mean, they do. And I'm part of that.
Mhm.
And finding the right solution and working with the user groups. I think we need to get there, but I don't know what that solution looks like right now. I've seen a lot, BLM do a variety of solutions. Almost recently worked in Southern Utah and a lot of target shooting in that area as well. But we want it done safely. We want it done, in a thoughtful, considerate manner. We don't allow tannerite on any BLM land. But yeah, it comes with potential for hazardous materials, a lot of debris being left. We just had a really good cleanup day it was over the first weekend of October, Mary's Peak cleanup, working with Trash No Land. They're a shooting advocacy group, and they have a Mary's Peak chapter. We went up to the Mary's Peak gravel shooting area, and they helped clean it up. And that was in conjunction with Benton County Sheriff, our law enforcement, some BLM staff on a Saturday, opening day of the deer hunt, and had a really good positive experience. But they seem to be a good group as well to work with.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we'll be in touch about that. And
Perfect.
you have next to me one of the most knowledgeable commissioners in the state, I think, on timber.
I need to access some of his information, I think, and he'd share it with me. I have business cards I'd like to give out as well, if that's okay. And Commissioner Pope, if you'd like to call me up and share any of your thoughts with me,
Maybe you just should schedule a meeting with me.
I would love
Through
that
Nicole.
too. I would absolutely do that if that's what needs to happen.
Take them out.
Yeah, I got it. But let's do that. And just yeah, timber is our bread and butter. And we do have other projects planned, certainly in Polk County in a variety of locations until we get to a certain point. It's pre-decisional. I can't share that publicly, but we do work. We are looking in different areas for additional timber shelves.
Perfect.
And the team's working on it right now. We're having a meeting on one of them today. So.
Appreciate your time, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your time and your willingness to engage with BLM. And we do have that positive relationship and like to keep it moving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any non-listed items we need to address before we adjourn? All right, we're adjourned at 9:28.